moving along here in our mastering tutorials. This is a little short tutorial on the DIY multiband compressor. So what basically a multiband compressor is this. It's a combination of a bandpass filters or EQs in combination with compression. So the beautiful part about purchasing an all-in-one multi-band compressor plug-in for Pro Tools or any of your other DAWs that may have them that come with it is that you only cry once. The downside of buying a plug-in that's a multi-band compression program is you might find it's an additional cost, and if you're not much in the banking department, spending may not be in your best interest. So, you've got a copy of Pro Tools. You've already got that investment. This is a means by which you could combine elements that are already in Pro Tools to build yourself a very flexible and quite solid mastering multi-band compressor. Now, I have. I'm not going to go through all the steps for you because there is actually a tutorial paper where it just kind of goes through each step. But anyway, so I'm going to go into Pro Tools here. And so what I did was I have a song pulled up here. Okay, so this is something I created. Now I'll go ahead and post it to our Blackboard site, but basically at the end of the day, it's this little song right here. It's called Alien Rave, and I don't know why I thought this is what aliens might dance to, but it seems reasonable. But anyway, so you're going to see here that there is an audio track here with the wave plugged into it. It's a stereo wave file. Then below that, what I did is I created a set of AUXes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 AUXes. And you can do as many as you care to and be as really, laser pointed frequency range, as tight as you want to, as picky as you want to. And that's the other beautiful part about this is because it's your design. You can build it the way you want to. You don't have to stick to what I tell you. And if you buy a plugin, you're kind of stuck with the way they designed it. Well, this is your design. You do what you want. If you come up with one that you find really works well for you, a design, a build, if you will, of this DIY, use that. Don't necessarily stick yourself into a hole, so to speak. But what I did with mine was really straight up and simple. I created a AUX for lows, low mid, high mid, and highs. And then I put a master fader on the tail end of the signal chain. Now what I did here, as you can see, is that with each one of these, what I've done is I'm sending out the Alien Rave wave here. You can see right here, I'm sending it out on bus 1 and 2 for my output. And then I'm sending it into each one of the AUXes on bus 1 and 2. And I'm not adjusting the levels. They're set to unity gain. They're just flat as a pancake, okay? So as it's going in, it's just going in at 0 dB. And then what I did on each one of these is I inserted an EQ followed by a compressor. And I didn't really touch any of the compression controls or anything, and I could still do that if I wanted to. But I did that for each one of the frequency ranges. And what I did was I started out with the lows. I used the EQ37. Sorry. And what I did was I chose the low pass filter right here. I didn't touch any of these other guys. Again, remember what we're trying to do here. We're trying to compress separate bands of frequencies, so that's why they call it a multi-band. You're not EQing several different EQs. You're creating bands of frequencies that you're allowing through. So I used this low pass filter. I cranked it up to 24 decibels, which was pretty generous. That's a pretty nice swipe. And then I yanked the frequencies all the way down to where it's a crossover point right here. This crossover point is at 120 hertz. Now, and I went ahead with that, and you can look on the tutorial if you want to and see what you think. But basically, after that, I'm gonna close this compressor and show you what I did for the low mids. So I'm gonna pull that up. Now this is the low mids. Now what I did there, as you can see, is then I selected the high pass filter and the low pass filter, and that kind of builds this little bump, if you will. You got to cut off on the highs and cut off on the lows. And then what you do is this: wherever your cutoff frequency was, like 120, okay, we want to be careful not to notch this out, right? We want to be careful not to notch this out. So, I mean, you can get real close, but just make sure that when you're building this, don't leave frequencies out, okay? Remember, you're controlling all the frequencies. So what I did was, I haven't adjusted this fully, but this goes down. It says the high pass is at 69 hertz, okay? And the low pass is at 167. Well, okay, so I stopped at what with this guy? See, he stopped at 120. So, I mean, I could extend that. I could bring it up a fair amount, so like 110, and kind of look in there, and I could probably extend this up a little bit more. See, so it's like that if we would overlay these two like this, you can kind of see, I can't really do it, but you can kind of see on the graph that there's really not a notch as much. I mean, I can go ahead and do this. Let me pull this down a little bit more. And see now where that crossover starts to break away here, starts to scoop down, this one's already engaged. So there's not that much of a mess going on there. And I did this for every single solitary frequency, or I tried to. So here is mids, okay? And I'm going to kind of look in here and go, okay, where's my high cutoff, right? So where's my high cutoff at? Or my low cutoff, excuse me. See, that's a little close. So I want to see where am I at here. So I'm going to try to find that. So see how that worked. So my cutoff frequency for the low part, high part, taking that back. And again, I'm trying to cut notches of frequencies to work with. Okay. And see, that guy's a little, he could probably be okay. All right. See how the cutoff is there, and then it goes into the next set of frequencies. And then the last one, let me slide these guys up here. Let's get them up where we could see everybody. Okay, do this. Because when we finally get to the last frequency band cut, this is highs only. How I'm opening these up is I'm hitting shift and then I'm clicking on the insert. Okay, and there you go. And so there is a little bit of a notch here, So, I mean, I could take this one, and because on the last one I'm using a high pass because there's no sense in low pass, so I could back this up just a smidgen here. Okay, and so that those are showing. Now, once you get all your band passes in place, built from your EQ3 7. And again, you're just using the high pass and low pass filters in that. Once you get that, it's like, okay, how do I operate this thing? Well, I'm going to select this. I'm going to put it on loop playback. So because it's a fairly short audio clip, I don't want to lose it. I'm going to take you back to here. So how do we make adjustments? So let me go alt click on all these guys. I'm going to send them all to 0 dB. Just unity gain. Okay. Oh, the last thing, I forgot to mention this. the last thing I did was on the master fader, I did go ahead and put a limiter in. I used there's a lot of limiters I could use, but they're the basic compressor limiter that's in Pro Tools already. I set it to gentle limit, which is it's got a soft knee limiter right there, so no biggie. And it dips down, a little bit, not terrible. Ratio's 100 to 1. The release is okay. The threshold is -8. So I mean you could put the maximum in there if you want to, but it's really kind of nice to have something different in there just to show that there are other plugins in Pro Tools that can do the limiting job. So but anyway, so how do we operate this thing? Well, first of all, we send out the wave file, its track, whatever we're mastering, and you don't have to master my thing. I want you to pick something that you got, that maybe one of your tunes that you want to master, or something that you pulled down that's you've purchased legally from the internet. And I send it out on the bus, and I send all these guys are receiving the same signal, right? Do you see that? Everybody's receiving the same signal. Now, there's a multitude of ways I could have done this, but this is the way I've done it, okay? So how do I do this? If I want to hear a specific frequency, I can go backwards. I can subtractive. So I want to hear this frequency. So this is all my lows. So let me hear this. And if you got, a nice sub, you're probably hearing that right now. And you'll notice over here on my out tick, it's not, on the mix bus, it's not really that flamboyant. So let me kind of push my subs up a little bit. Okay, now I'm gonna mute that, and you hear nothing, right? Let me open this guy up. There's my low mids. So I'm gonna get that kick. I'm gonna unmute my sub and see if I've done my homework and I've raised these the right amount. Check that out. I'm starting to get some real nice thump there. Okay, what about my mid? Ooh, that's real bright, isn't it? Real present. I'm gonna back that off just a smidgen, just to hear what that sounds like. Gonna add my high mids. Kind of make it painful. Then I'll add my highs. So it's really starting to breathe. I did that just to show you if you combine all those sounds all together, it really sounds awful because you're basically over modulating everything, because each one of these is a duplication of this signal right here. Now you'll notice when you're coming up against, when you get to this thing, oh wow, this is really sounding great, but you're noticing that your levels aren't hot, right? So you go over here to your compressor, and I know your output's like red. I did that earlier, but you're noticing that it's really not hot. I mean, I could up my gain on the compressor, right? I could do that, or I could go down here and just simply raise my fader. And there's no doubt that right now that's starting to get really solid. It's starting to sound really great. It's starting to rock a little bit. I'm getting a nice resonant points. I'm trying to trim those highs just a little bit so they're not painful to listen to. I want them to sound good and I want them to be present. But again, this is a mix I did. This is a song I kind of threw together, and gotta watch the blood in the mix there. Kind of have it popping over its threshold. Okay. So anyway, So, and you can spend hours literally, I don't know if you want to spend hours doing that, but you can literally spend hours working on, the mastering format of a mix. But this is your DIY multiband compressor.